Testing. Okay, there we go. Good morning. It is October 25th. We're here for our regular scheduled commissioner meeting. We have a full slate of commissioners, our administrator, Mr. Gonzalez, and our clerk of the board. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise and join in the pledge. All right, the first item on the agenda is approval of the vouchers. I believe we have one today.
Move for approval of fund expenditures in the total amount of $547,669.52 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us down to public comment. Is there anybody in the room for public comment or anybody on the phones? Anybody in the room?
Commissioners, I would have waited till the elected period, but and I'm more than willing to come back up should you have any questions. But I wanted to address a couple of things. One is on the Davidson building. I had made a statement on the assessed value, and I don't know how I left a 1 out, but I did. I apparently quoted 1.89 in assessed value, and it's 1.189. So real close to the actual price you paid for it, just under the appraised value. So I wanted to clarify that for the record, because we did have it assessed just slightly above what you paid for it. The other thing I wanted to address is Tri-City Herald seems to love to misquote things, and they certainly misquoted me from the last couple of weeks where I addressed the commissioners regarding the insurance and the VEBA issue. They stated that my office, he says that Rosna said that the payout about $22,000 per year total for my office, speaking of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. I was not referring to any of my union employees. I was talking about myself as an elected and two non-BARG employees. If they take the PPO 1000 family plan or myself as a spouse in that, which is probably what would happen out of my office, it would increase by $22,000 just on those three individuals what the county would have to pay out of pocket, just for those three individuals. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record, because it definitely doesn't even begin to account for what might change for the union employees. And since this is back up on a consent agenda item, I thought I would address this during a public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment?
Kathy Sant, Franklin County. Thanks for taking the advice and having the public comment before the consent agenda items. I appreciate that. I read in the Tri-City Herald that, and as you stated in the meeting, that you were doing changing the benefit contributions and not doing that yet. And now I see it on the consent agenda after all for the non-bargaining employees and elected officials. So I would just like to find out why there's so much change going on and fiddling with things day to day. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Nobody on the phone? So that moves us down to the consent agenda. I believe there are 4 items on the consent agenda today.
Mr. Chairman, my agenda, my table position shows 5. As I think some of us are aware, item 5 was previously tabled by this board. As such, can't come back before the body without a vote of the body. But because you've just said there are 4 items, I'm guessing that a change has been made since late yesterday, and now item 5 is no longer part of the consent. Is that correct?
It has been moved to the regular business for discussion. It was
Then,
never supposed to be consent. It was supposed to be on regular business.
Okay, well, then because it is appropriate to seek board consent and approval of an agenda before the meeting starts, I'll lodge my objection now to that item, Resolution 2023-278, being on the agenda at all today for 2 reasons. One, it has previously been tabled and has not been pulled from the table by a majority of the board. And 2, my understanding of the Washington Public Meetings Act requires that notice be given, and this was added, as I understand it, at 8:59 a.m. yesterday, which would be at best 24 hours, which might meet the requirement for a special meeting, which is a single item in a separate meeting. I don't believe it meets the 72-hour notice requirement to the public for this agenda item. For those reasons, I'd like to have that removed from today's agenda. If there is not majority board support for that, then I'll call for a executive session under the appropriate statute to look at the risk of litigation potential or existing. Thank you.
Maybe you would like to address this, Teresa. Do you want to, please? Explain that.
Yes, good morning, Commissioner. So yesterday, on Monday, we had a budget workshop, and then a few minutes before our deadline, which is 24 hours prior to today's meeting, the county administrator assistant did a favor and then uploaded the agenda with the updates. But it was a slight mistake where she put this regular item under consent. But after the workshop, I noticed it, but because it has been less than 24 hours, I couldn't amend it.
And therefore, since it didn't make the hourly, I will remove it from the meeting today, and I'll ask the commissioners if we could please bring it up for discussion next week. Is there a consent to bring it back onto the agenda for next week?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not in favor of bringing it back on the
We
agenda.
already heard you, Commissioner Peck, so I'm asking Commissioner Mullen if he's in favor of bringing it up for next week for discussion or not.
Excuse me, you solicited input. I'm a sitting commissioner. I will comment. Until the State Attorney General has responded to the legal questions such that we know what the appropriate legal path is, I don't see that bringing it back before the board is productive. Thank you.
I believe we've already made an announcement that we were going to have some outside counsel take a look at the benefits contribution, and I think we should stand by our word and take a look at it once we've had outside counsel look at this.
So, Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes, sir.
have we got outside counsel lined up, and what time frame are we going to have this taken care of?
So, Chair, I'm already in the process of forming a work group, based on last Wednesday's discussion when we tabled it. So I've been in contact with Rich Dickman, who is the Franklin County VEBA administrator. So starting with him, and I think the best process is to build a coalition of employees in here and also some outside counsel. So I'm already in that process based on the conversation from last Wednesday and that process of tabling it. And certainly I've heard from a lot of employees and outside groups on this. So I think the most thoughtful manner, at this point is, as you guys are doing, is tabling it, take a look at it. But I think we put a timeline on when I can deliver you some results of at least the direction that we're headed in. So I'm already at work on that.
So what is the time? When are we going to expect to hear from you on this?
Well, I think minimum a couple of months. I think it's going to take just a couple of weeks to get that work group together, then to start really formulating some ideas. Keep in mind we're about to go into negotiations with the union, so I think we'll learn a lot. I think from that process. And we have to also distinguish non-bargs from bargaining units. We have the power to basically do what we want with non-bargs, but I think as some folks have suggested, working with the bargaining units first on the VIBA issue and the contribution issue to see where they stand, and then I think that gives us a good framework as we head into the non-bargaining units. But I think some of the other concerns are benefit selection is going to happen soon. So this kind of muddies the water in terms of that selection process. So again, I think I can deliver a pretty good idea of a direction in 3 months and maybe before that. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but certainly form the work group the rest of this month into early November. Start to formulate some ideas as we get into December. Have an idea of direction we're headed by February, and then realize it's going to be a long process, because once we're into our benefits package, we can't pull the rug at that point, Commissioners. So,
Exactly.
But I think it is. It's a long play and I think a thoughtful process.
Well, I think that you have done an incredible amount of research already, where there is no other county, there's no other municipality that is doing this kind of gracious giving to certain individuals. And I believe that if we don't correct this, we are setting the standard for the state, and it'll happen other places, and the money will be used up that needs to be used for our budget concerns that we're hearing from. And therefore, I think you need to be firing a letter off to the AG as soon as possible and asking what is the delay in their response.
And I have been in contact with Alicia Young, who's one of the deputy AG folks over there, and we've exchanged a couple of emails recently, and she did indicate to me they are looking at it, but they're pretty non-committal at the AG's office as far as the timeline that they'll give you. But what she did tell me is that giving them information about processes that we're going through is helpful, because it helps them at least expedite the decision a little bit and get some input. So what I made the commitment to her was to keep the conversation going and let her know what is happening here at the county, and we're certainly waiting the results, because that can have a cascading effect on
Exactly.
on decisions that we're making. So I don't want to say I'm trying to put pressure on her, but definitely get the conversation going. And she was gracious and returned the emails really quickly. So I feel like we have good dialogue going there.
Okay, well, we will pull Resolution 2023-278 from the agenda, and we have 4 consent items on the agenda today. Looking for a motion.
Move to approve consent agenda items 1 through 4 as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on item 3. An opportunity to remove an item from the consent wasn't offered, so I'll ask for discussion on item 3. And second it on that condition.
Commissioner Mullen, will you amend your motion for items 1, 2, and 4? We'll take 3 as separate.
Move to approve resolutions 1, 2, and 4 as presented, with discussion on number 3.
Second.
There's been a motion, a second, to approve resolution, or the consent items 1, 2, and 4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Peck, you have the floor for item 3.
Working from memory, I read the ASR on this, and first off, would want to commend the efforts of the district court to seek out grant funds to make this all possible. But what I didn't see, and I hope I didn't miss it in the text, was any explanation of the timeline on the grant and the obligation, if any, for the county to continue paying the salary for the individual who will be paid under a grant, right? So to refresh everybody's memory, this is Therapeutic Court and an employee who we're being asked to approve at a grade 18, step 4. And it says that the position will be paid for with a grant, but it doesn't tell me when the grant runs out, does that become part of the county's obligation to pay that, or does the position go away? So that's the question. I'm willing to go ahead if the majority of the board wishes to approve it on the assumption that it is going to become part of the county budget after the grant runs out. If that's the intent and that's the will of the board, then I will go along. But I would prefer to know what I'm voting on. Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez, I don't see Trinity in the room. Do you have the answer to this?
In my understanding, and Daniel might have some perspective, but in conversations with Trinity, who's on vacation, just happened to be on vacation, but this grant resets each year. So I don't think we would be obligated as a county to fund it each year. And I think the issue that comes before the board today was when she originally submitted the ASR, they submitted it at an 18 with the intent. She admittedly made a mistake and is here to correct it. So they offered this position at an 18.4 with it being fully grant funded. So basically that's why it comes to you with the 18.4. But that is my understanding, Daniel. And if you know differently, that I think she has to go after this grant money each year.
That's correct. I don't think we would be obligated, but we would be able to pay out of our own pocket if for some reason the grant went away, but it would not be required of us.
Okay, thank you.
Did I not hear from Ms. Orozco that she has this within her budget to cover it anyway?
She does have the money, and
Yes.
she has plenty of money. So,
There you go.
And that's the issue. So it's not really a fiscal issue. It's more, because what happened was Commissioner Didier and the auditor's office was doing a good job. They caught it that it was at an 18. So she was getting paid at a grade 18 thinking, hey, I got hired at a 18.4. So there was some money missing from her check. So when it all came to fruition, they figured out, okay, you need to go back before the commission to make sure that we're hired at the right grade and step. So kudos to the auditor's office for doing a good job with it, but it did cause a bit of a hassle as far as a paycheck.
Move to approve Resolution 2023-292 as presented.
Second.
And a motion is second to approve Resolution 2023-292. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, that moves us down to regular business items. Franklin County Noxious Weed Board budget, presented by Mr. Harris. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Hey, how are you? Mike Gonzalez.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Start off, before I get into our budget here, I'll pull that down low. Like to mention that our board has made some changes this year. We had two of our directors retire and move on to serving other issues. Marv Grassel has been our chairman for for most of 30-some years. Been on the board for 37 years, retired, and we have also Terry Utek up in the Connell area, also retired. Both gentlemen have been on numerous boards, and we're happy to have them on ours to serve us for the last several years. So we'll submit our budget that the Franklin County Noxious Weed Control Board of Directors has approved and submitted for your approval. Start with the payroll. We are currently staffed at 4 employees. You see on the right-hand side there, comparative to from this year to last year. We have 4 staff positions currently, and we'll plan to stay at that at this time. We do also have in our budget set aside a part-time position for 6 months if we need additional help at peak times of the year when we're spraying and so forth. I put in a 4% increase for the staff for the 2024 season. I truly felt that that increase was needed in order to keep staff on hand and not have to continually be training new people all the time. Any questions on our payroll side?
Questions?
I'll just say thank you for providing one of the better breakouts. We look at budgets for other agencies that bring their budgets to us for approval, and I really appreciate the fact that you show us 2023 and 2024 and what the difference is. That's in budget world for counties. I think that's sort of the example for transparency. It makes my job very easy. I don't see anything about this budget that concerns me except that if there are unmet weed control issues, I wouldn't have been opposed to seeing some additional expense in this budget. Not that we've got extra money to throw around, but we often talk about how important the ag industry is to our economy in this county, and weed control is obviously a big part of that. So I like what I see, happy to support it, and thanks for what you do.
Thank you. A little bit about our program. We have a cost share program that we've been working on for the last. This 2024 will be our 7th season that we've offered a cost share for landowners that have noxious weed issues. The majority of that acreage over the years has been larger acres out in the rangeland, and some of it has been on CRP, where we can kind of help provide a little bit of a cost share to help cover the herbicide and or application so that we can kind of help them get more acres done. We've averaged probably from between 3,000 and 5,000 acres a year that we kind of help get treated every year through that program alone. So it's been pretty well received and pretty well appreciated, I think. Our roadside program, last year we kind of had some issues with cold weather, and the cold weather coming up doesn't look real great for doing a lot of fall work, but we'll kind of keep on that. doing our best to try and purchase chemicals prior to known increases, which generally happens around the first of the year. So we try and buy the chemical and then have it on hand so that we're able to, if we can do some fall application, we go ahead and do some fall roadside spraying, and then whatever's left we do in the spring, and try and work our way through it as best as we can to get her done. We also do quite a few contracts with different agencies, Bonneville Power, State Parks, as well as we've been fortunate enough to get several WSDA, State Department of Ag grants and contracts to work on different weed species that they've offered funding for. So it kind of helps to augment what our assessments provide us. So, any questions on any of those that I can answer?
I see that the grant, you have more than doubled it.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we've been very fortunate in the last year to have some specific grant funds for Tree of Heaven, Scotch thistle, and Ravenna grass removal, which is pretty helpful because they're ones that are not on everybody's radar, but they are definitely on our, kind of have a small amount of those to clean up, and they're ones that we can actually see some completion on a couple of those at least. So,
Any other questions?
Yeah, how is your drone work? How is it going?
we kind of just sort of dipped our toes in the water of that a little bit this year. Specifically on the Tree of Heaven, we did a couple of projects where we had a local applicator that has a drone to do some flying, and it really looks kind of promising. We did what we could around the perimeters of Tree of Heaven, patches in 2 or 3 different locations around the county, and then asked a drone operator to come in and fly over the top, because Tree of Heaven is generally such a dense thicket of suckers and branches and whatnot to get into. We can get around the perimeter on the ground pretty well usually, but in the to get over the top and blow that herbicide down in there was kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see. We don't know the results until probably next year, I suppose, on those, but kind of excited about that and would like to do a little bit more with it. It works, the drone works, I think will work pretty well for us in that we're doing a lot of like small areas, and that seems to fit the drone functionality a lot better than as opposed to spraying large acreages and that sort of thing.
How is it cost comparative to just regular spraying?
It's going to be more because one, drones are new. They're 30 to 40,000 a piece. The batteries only last for a short period of time, run time. There's a lot of kind of glitchy things that need to be worked out GPS wise, as well as being able to follow the terrain. Varying terrains or terrain topography is very, very challenging for them to adjust to. So there's a lot of work that the drone designers have to do on those in order to make them really, really spot on what they could do. So.
Well, I'm excited about it because in my experience is you spray the fields and then you can't get to certain areas, and it's almost defeating with certain types of weeds, because when you can't get to those because of the terrain, and then the seeds blow into where you've already sprayed. And so it's exciting to see that with that technology that improvements can be made to make it more effective for everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's coming, and I think it's going to be something where we have a small project in a kind of rough terrain where it's hard to get out on with a gator or something like that, that this drone is able to go over the top. But as they get these issues ironed out, I think it's going to be a really good tool, something that we may need to look into for our own use. So,
All right, thank you.
yep. Thank you. Anything else?
Any other questions? I'd say, being a farmer out there, I see you guys out there all the time, getting the work done. I appreciate all the hard effort and work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Move to approve Resolution 2023-288 in the matter of Franklin County Noxious Weed Control Board Budget 2024.
Second?
Been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-288. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moves us down to implementation of Gravity Software Contract, IGM, presented by Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair Didier. Yes, as you mentioned, the implementation of the Gravity software contract. I've got Ryan Brimacombe from the Auditor's Office who's going to help me out with the presentation, so you guys get a feel for what we're trying to accomplish. So just to tee it up for Ryan a little bit, this is a new software program that would help us with the budgeting process and really bring us into the digital age. Currently, we use Excel spreadsheets to balance our really big budget of $140 million, a $40 million current expense. And I'll say our auditor's office, they're absolute wizards with Excel. But one of my priorities as county administrator is really to get us into the digital age and update our processes. And I want to let everybody know we really I work closely with the auditor's office on the selection process to get to this point. We've demoed multiple systems, and the Gravity was really the best value at the cost. So I think this will really help us with clarity and also transparency with our budget, and make it much easier for the commissioners to grasp what's going on in each department, because I think that's really the biggest challenge, even as county administrator right now, is to dig into the budget. I meet with Tim quite a bit, and it's a lot of Excel spreadsheets. So this would give us access to data right away, and really, because I do a lot of public speaking as well, being able to help the public understand. So I'll toss it over to Ryan, who has this presentation.
Thank you. So why choose Gravity? Mike's highlighted on a few of those reasons already. It's bringing us more modern. Many of the other agencies around are using it, but let me stick to what's on the slides here. Some of the great reasons are to put taxpayer dollars to good use. It's great bang for our buck. It will improve transparency and communication within the county itself and also to the public. It'll improve efficiency, accuracy, technology, and it will allow us to continue to adhere to rules and regulations. Essentially, we're getting these 5 modules: budget planning, budget book, ACFR, open data transparency, leases, and speed of management. And we'll touch on those a little bit here. Sorry, I know this one's a little bit of a busy slide. I just took these from their budgeting brochure that Gravity had. And some of the ones on there is you can attach supporting documents to each request. You're able to track the workflow. Some of these great tools. Let me see here. you can automate certain calculations. So maybe you know each year that you're going to have somebody traveling to such and such a conference, so that can already be in there ready to go. You can do different analysis. Say you're looking at a different COLA, you can update that, and it's going to be in much faster time, and it's going to take out a lot of the manual error potential. You can link projects to goals, and so say you had a certain goal for the county, you'd be able to link that within Gravity, so you could get a summary of that. Oh, well, here's how we're doing towards that goal. Currently, so now we're going to drill into each of those 5 things. Or we already started that with the last slide. This was the budget planning portion. Here's the budget book. Currently, we do binders like these, and that can be a pretty tedious process. Not only for our department, but I think across the board. There's a lot of spreadsheets and such, as Mike had alluded to earlier, that there's many hours that could be better spent doing actual analysis instead of putting together papers. And any small change leads to, oh, we better shuffle these other pages in the right order because they all changed. Using this technology, it's going to take out a lot of potential for error and just make it a lot more efficient of a process. ACFR, that's something that Franklin County is wanting to do, and what that means, it's an annual comprehensive financial report. Essentially, we are doing a lot of these components right now, but the Government Finance Officers Association, they have this certificate of achievement program that they have, and many local governments participate in this, and that's just something that we would aim to do maybe in 25 for 24 financials. Probably not going to be right away because of all the other modules that are more essential right now to our operation, such as budgeting and making sure we're adhering to current GASB's, Governmental Accounting Standards Board standards, which we'll get into those in a little bit here. Open data transparency. I want to just show you this one. This is kind of the wow factor, if you will. Let me see if I hope it works on here. Okay, I'm seeing it on my screen, but I need to get it on the other. Let me see here. There we go. Let's say for Mike or commissioners or others, if you wanted to present it in a more visually appealing way, you would have the ability to do that. You could, drill down on, say, capital improvement fund. And you can see as you're hovering over it, it's telling you. I mean, it's just a little more visually appealing. You can keep drilling down and seeing, well, what's that made of? Just as a quick sample of obviously a lot further than where we're currently at. Let me go back to here. Okay, I mentioned that we'll come back to the GASB. So you probably remember last year we came to you guys with a debt book and that was for leases and subscription-based technology arrangements. That one takes effect this year, and these are the two of the recent GASBs that put a lot of extra work on us. And as you heard when the state auditors were here in the exit interview, we passed leases well, and a lot of that was because of the DebtBook software. This, I would say it's almost in the same place as DebtBook. I think DebtBook's a little bit superior, but for the amount of leases and SPIDAs that we have, I think we're okay with this one, and I think it's proven to. Lots of other governments are using it as well. I would say DebtBook's the leader. Maybe these guys are, second or third as far as local government for leases and SPIDAs. But one of the nice things is that we wouldn't need DebtBook anymore. They're doing a multi-module discount, and also this will be linked to the ACFR one once we do implement it. It's all going to speak to each other, and we're going to save $20,000 a year that we won't be paying DebtBook. That we might be. It's going to be about $5,000 for this one after the module discount. So that's some good savings, and it makes sense again because of it being tied to the ACFR. As far as our reporting, it'll save some time. So here's a breakdown of the costs. Again, coming back to this is a great bang for our buck. You'll see in 2023, that $5,000 is really compiling those SPIDAs, the subscription-based information technology arrangements. We want to get a head start on that because it's going to be a lot to implement with the budget planning being shortly after that, getting that going next year. And again, I think budget planning, I think that's really going to be a huge benefit to the county, all the different departments, the time saving and more efficient and accurate. And then you see in 2024, the cost is going to be the most that it will be, and that's close to $50,000. And it's really $65,750 total amount in 2024. But you take out the DebtBook portion, and we're at a net hit of $48,750, and then it will increase 5% per year the cost. But one other thing worth noting, the ACFR implementation, you'll see we don't have that until 2025. So, and then thereafter, you're looking at about $30,000 a year is what the net hit's going to be, and so again, just to summarize, we've essentially these slides have been talking about I wrote bank for your buck on this one, but bang for your buck, and then all the other things they've been kind of touched on as well. You're seeing how it's helping with transparency, and it's much better than looking at a spreadsheet, and it's more efficient, more accurate, better technology, and it allows us to continue to adhere to rules and regulations. That's where the SPIDAs and leases was touching on. As Mike had mentioned, we did look at other software, and I do know each of the recent places I've been at, they've gone through a similar thing. BFT, they went to Profix. City of Richland, they went to ClearGov. Mike was at City of Pasco. They also used ClearGov. They were, and both of them, ClearGov and Questica, who we looked at as well, excellent products as well. It wasn't super easy to decide. I think that really the factor, as you see highlighted in red there, it was really the leases and SPIDAs and the ACFR that these guys essentially, that's their bread and butter. They do this. They try to do everything as far as the reporting. That's their biggest. So ultimately, since we will benefit from all these modules, it kind of aligns with what our vision is. We really felt that Gravity was the best for us. And then one final slide. One thing that was important to our team was to see others that have implemented it. How do they feel about it? And especially number 5 was key to us. If you could do it over, would you choose Gravity again? And they all said yes. And they love the customer service. That's been our experience so far. They're super quick at getting back to us. How did implementation go? Smoothly. They they mentioned there were some tough moments, but excellent implementation consultants. So I think for what it would cost, I think it's a good investment, and I'd like to open it to questions.
Questions?
How much time will this save you?
That's hard to say exactly, but I mean, just speaking with somebody from another department, he was telling me, he spent a whole week, getting budget stuff together. So on their end, we're talking hours, and that's probably across departments. And then maybe Tim would have some other thoughts on the time savings. He's been a lot more involved in the actual budget process. Thank you, Tim.
I would agree that it's hard to quantify. I mean, initially, there's going to be a lot of work at the outset to get it set up because there's certain things within it. The budget book and the Act for pieces where we actually will link to points in our data so that it updates and everything. And so there's going to be a lot of setup to begin with. So to begin with, there's going to be a lot of work. But once all of that initial setup is done, it'll definitely streamline things. But I mean, to put a number on it, it would be difficult to do. I mean, it would be fairly substantial.
So eventually it will make your job a lot easier.
Easier, but then ultimately the goal is to produce more robust information. So like right now, we're not actually doing a full ACFR. We're doing we're just doing the financial statements, but an ACFR includes more information. There's statistical information and things like that, and we would be doing that as well and going out for the GFOA award program on that, and so there are different awards that we'd ultimately like to be able to do, that we would be able to do with some of the time improvements on this.
So in your opinion, it's be a benefit to the county?
Oh, absolutely. Just the current budget process where we're sending out to departments, sending out information in Excel, getting things returned in Excel. There is room for entry error. There's room for mistakes. Doing this, where it's all contained in the system and you're not entering and re-entering and everything. There's huge benefits to that. So I think the budget process for what we do during workshops and stuff would be a lot better process.
All right, thank you.
Well, I'm a big fan of spreadsheets, so you had me at the start, but I did note a couple things. One, I want to thank you for coordinating with Information Services. Obviously, that's a big piece of making something like this work. And I think that observation is validated by some of the previous slides where the customers from California, I think one was Santa Cruz County and the other I think was Placer County or cities. And both of them in the technical block, if they had a concern, it was the technical challenges of implementing it, which I don't think is unique. We saw it here when we implemented one solution. It's not easy, and no one should expect it to be seamless or flawless, but I do think it's the right direction. A little concerned about the cost, but these are complex times financially for our compliance with state audits and GASB rules and constant changings to the bars. And I still concerned about the cost and where the money's going to come from, but I like the proposal. Thanks.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask a quick clarifying question. This went through the legal department, and there was a version which included direct connection and a $2,000 fee associated with that. And I noticed the one that made it to the agenda doesn't have that. Was that no longer required as a one-time fee?
Yes, so the IS team, they had some calls with Gravity, with their technical folks, and ultimately, they felt it'd be more secure to create our own direct connection. So that's the path they decided to go, is to take that out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I suppose I do have one other. Where or how or does this fit into your department budget going forward? Or are you looking for this to come out of the county's general fund?
It would ultimately primarily come out of the information services budget, as they do all of the software. The actual costs of some of the implementing stuff, the plan will come out of the our original software, the capital projects fund for the where we initially got the bond, where the bond proceeds went for the One Solution project. So the plan is to pay for some of the implementation of it from there, but the ongoing costs will come from information services budget.
And they've reviewed and coordinated on this, and I don't see any notes from them opposing that idea, so I guess I'll assume that they're good with it.
As long as the commissioners approve it.
Yeah, I understand. You're correct. Thank you. Is there anyone from IS here, by the way? Okay.
Austin, you want to make the call, or? No, just kidding. Let's see if I can get a hold of.
Move to approve Resolution 2023-290 as presented.
Second, discussion.
There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-290. Discussion.
Is the maker of the motion intending for his motion to be a commitment for the board to fund this?
Is it going to come out of the IS budget?
What he said.
Yes, the ongoing costs would come out of the IS budget. Yes. It would ultimately, the budgets would have to be increased for this cost.
Yeah.
Ms. Couples, please come forward. You've been
Hello, yes, I was listening.
summoned.
May I assist?
Yes.
What was the question?
If this was going to come out of your budget.
Yes, it is going to come out of the 101-350, the 4816 line. That's where we pay all of our renewal software, now I can't talk.
Subscriptions?
Software subscriptions.
Yeah.
I did talk with Tim and Ryan on it, went through legal review, and we're okay with that.
Okay. Did you include this in your next year's budget?
Tim is going to put it into our 4816 line, so, or he's going to adjust, because we'd already submitted our budget, so he's going to adjust that 4816 line. I think for my 4816, we had a $77,000 overreach or request, and so the 2024 will have to be added into that.
So bottom line increase to your 2024 budget would be the full amount of this, or was there an offset in there?
I think it was $37,000 is what I was seeing on the
Okay.
slides.
Okay.
So it'd be 77 plus the 37.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And the question to the maker of the motion was whether or not the intent was for this to also be a commitment by the board to fund it. Not opposed to it. I'd just like to know what we're voting on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair, I'm going to abstain on the basis that I didn't receive an answer to the question on the
Aye.
motion.
Motion
What more-
passes.
What more do you want?
Motion passes. Let's move on.
Yep, let's move on.
Item C, Resolution 2023-291, transfer funds from contingency to expedite and uses. Mr. Bratton.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a request to transfer remainder of a grant that was for the Shoreline Master Program. It was a reimbursement grant. We spent funds covering it. When the 2023 budget was created, we did put the resource line, but due to an oversight, didn't put an expenditure line. So it's just been sitting there. Professional services were being paid with the assumption that that money would be used. So all this is a request to transfer the remainder of that into our professional services from contingency. The delay from last week was due to the fact that we thought it would just go from internal into just in our budget, but we were informed that's not how it's done. So finance helped, Tim especially helped me get this wording right so that it's set the way it's supposed to be. But the reality is the money's in my account, it's just in the wrong line. So
Questions?
happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have no questions. It
Nope.
seems pretty simple.
I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you.
Move for approval of Resolution 2023-291 as presented.
Second.
Been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-291. With no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Moves us down to Resolution 2023-286, increase of purchasing card, P card limit for HR department. Ms. Wilder.
Ms. Lizette is going to present today.
Well,
Good morning.
welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
So our request today is to increase the limit for our P card from 7,500 to 1,200, or 12,000. And the reason being is during this time of year, during open enrollment, in the past, HR has taken the responsibility to pay for all of our life flight dues for every employee that enrolls in that benefit. So we pay the invoice as soon as we receive it. Throughout the years, there has been an increase in people who enroll in that benefit, therefore increasing the cost that we have to cover. In addition to our Left One retiree benefits that we offer, and then our monthly invoices that we receive from month to month. So having this increase will give us more financial flexibility to pay all of our invoices in a timely manner, therefore not having to pay any additional dues for late payments or any coverage in breaks that we offer to our employees.
Questions?
So as I read this ASR, I really see two actions, not one. You just spoke to the first one, which I support. I think you've made a very rational, good case for why it's needed. The second part, reading from the ASR subject block, says also, so this is the second action, grant the Franklin County Administrator the authority to increase a department's purchase card limit on a one-time basis when appropriate and necessary to maintain daily operations. My issue with that is that it delegates the full power and authority of this board to the county administrator to approve a one-time expense that has no cap or limit. It could be $500,000. Now, there is a delegated authority from this board to the county administrator. I forget with absolute certainty, but I think it's $25,000. But whatever that cap is, I would be fine with this provision as long as that authority was subject to that county administrator's existing cap. It's an administrative detail, but it's an important one because we'd be delegating unlimited spending authority to the county administrator. And if we wanted to break out that second piece, I could support it, or if the board wanted to agree to simply make a voice adjustment that says subject to the county administrator's delegated spending authority, I'd be good with it that way too. Thank you.
Commissioner Mullen, you have any questions?
Just a question about the P card. So when you charge something onto the P card, how fast do you get that to the treasurer's office?
The next month. So we have to wait until we get the invoice back from the bank, the statement, and then we can process that.
Are there any late fees associated with that?
On occasion, there have been. I believe that's kind of a separate issue that might be coming up later on as to automate some of the payments, but we definitely do our due diligence as much as we can to not create any late fees. But yes, our office has had them.
Okay, I'm just curious. I wanted to know the process.
Yeah.
So thank you. I have no further questions.
Yes, I believe we're going to have a workshop on our P cards coming up here.
Ultimately, we are, because
Yes.
we've had some issues with some late fees, just because the processing takes a while to get to the commissioners to have the ultimate sign-off. So the auditor's office and treasurer's office are working diligently on a new policy. That should be coming to fruition any day now. So I think we'll get that in front of you guys, hopefully early November, and really kind of expedite that process, so.
Because we have had a lot of late fees, and we were contemplating eliminating the P cards. So this may not be a solution for you if that was to occur, because of the problems we're having with late fees.
I know Russ wants to, from the
Please come
treasurer's
forward,
office.
Russ.
Hey, sorry, just to jump in here really quick. I think we are working on the new P card policy, and that will eventually come. Just based on this resolution, and this is just simply by having a discussion with Josie and some of the people in the auditor's office. I think the separation there should be made, and the board has the authority to allow the county administrator to do and the increases. I just think that should be done via policy update, because currently the way we have the policy, if we do resolutions that contradict the policy, it's hard for departments to look up the policy and to know if any other resolutions are out there allowing that or not allowing that. So it's not that I necessarily disagree with the motion. As far as the limit increase goes, that's how we've done in the past, that people came in front of the board, and the limit increase is totally okay. And then if you guys want to delegate the increase to a county administrator, that's also outside of our decision, and I don't see an issue with that. I just think that should be an update in the actual policy. If we're going to do it right away. And then once we have the new policy, that might be in there as well, if you guys choose to have that. But to put that in one resolution, I think is just kind of creates more of a misunderstanding down the road. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. Questions?
So I think we should probably strike the last half of that and just go with the HR department at this time.
And that's fine with us. That was presented to us to kind of add in there. I think it was for a temporary sort of solution and not to make it like a blank check where a department could ask for the moon. And I would agree that, a policy change would be better than to make those constant
Yes.
changes. So I'm not opposed to that at all. Our main concern is the cost of the life flight and being able to provide that service for employees and have the ability to cover that cost. That is our primary goal.
Mr. Chairman, to affect the proposal you just made, it would be also necessary to delete the last paragraph of the attached resolution. And if we did that, then I could support this without any reservation.
Is there a consensus with the board to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe staff has the ability to print that out while we're in session, and we could have a fresh, correct one signed today. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you.
So with that, do we have a motion in a second?
I move to approve Resolution 2023-286 as hereby amended. Delete the last paragraph of the draft resolution provided, which reads, "Be it further resolved, the Franklin County Board of Commissioners hereby grants the Franklin County Administrator the authority to grant a one-time credit limit increase to departments that shows the need to maintain daily operations." That text I just read is to be deleted from the resolution That's the motion.
Second.
Been a motion, a second, with the adjustment on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Moves us down to the closed record hearing, Resolution 2023-289, closed record conditional use permit to allow for the construction of a Group A public water system facility, presented by Mr. Bratton. And at this time, I will open the closed record hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Excuse me, Mr. Bratton, if I may. Would you please articulate for us whether or not you view this as a quasi judicial matter or not?
The quasi judicial matter and the item that I presented to you was included as part of the record to the Planning Commission. It was inadvertently left out of your packets this morning.
Okay, thank you for anticipating and answering the question. And the rules for recusal are different in quasi judicial matters, so I'm going to respectfully ask that if there's any participant in this proceeding that has a conflict of interest on this quasi judicial matter, that they observe that as appropriate, consistent with the statutes. Thank you.
Yes, this permit is a conditional use permit for the siting of the Richview Mullen water system. Now, one thing that needs to be clarified is regarding water rights, the utilization of water systems, things like that. Franklin County has little to no say over whether or not a person converts their well to a different use, whether or not a Class A water system can go in. These types of things are determined by the Department of Ecology, Department of Drinking Water, and the Regional Health Department. So what we have here before us is we do have authority regarding the, shall we say, the above-ground structures or the area where, like, say, the water storage tanks are, you know, the machinery that's above ground. And that's really what this question is, this is to the board for. It's to set the conditions for how that stuff needs to be developed. The stuff that's in the ground, in the pipes, all of that's handled at a state level. Whether there's adequate water, whether or not, you know, they need to drill deeper, all of that stuff is not in our purview. That's all handled at the state level. So hence, this presentation and this request primarily focuses on just those above ground elements, the towers, the generator, the site, the condition with screening, those types of things associated with this proposal. This determination about the limitations of our ability to say yay or nay about the actual, whether or not the system will exist, that's based on discussions with ecology and the Franklin County Conservation District, who also is involved in these types of activities. So I just wanted to put that out there just to help keep it focused. This is potentially a rather large water system, but it also would potentially remove the need for additional exempt wells, or, I mean, not any, but it will replace significant number of exempt wells, which it hence, maybe I can hit a click. Okay, so yes, the address is 1603 Richview Road, parcel number 124300373. Zoning's AP20, agricultural production, comp plan's agricultural. Now, the entire property is 44.55 acres, but the portion of the property under discussion is approximately half an acre. It's located east of Fraser Road, west of Richview Drive, north of Fanning Road, and south of Self Landing. As mentioned, it's to construct a Group A public water system on approximately half acre of the parcel. Site plan features the location of 2 reservoir tanks, a booster station, 2 wells, a backup generator, fencing, driveway parking area, locations of 4-inch and 12-inch diameter water piping, and an underground irrigation canal. So that's the area that is proposed to be developed. It's in this circle, so this is where the equipment would be sited. The site plan of the site, we've got 2 water towers. Now, right now, there's some debate. At the time of application, they were estimating that these would be 35 foot. They're now thinking that they're going to probably potentially lower them to be lower and wider, and closer to 25. That came out in the hearing. So, oops, wrong way. Fence, backup generator, booster station. These are relatively low elevation items. I mean, generally under 10 feet. That might be more, it depends on exactly the design. The towers are, like I said, some are going to be somewhere between 25 and 35 foot. 35 foot is the maximum height without a conditional use permit, but they're not seeking anything above that. This is a shot of the property. So on or about July 20th, 2023, staff sent notices to technical agencies, property owners within 1 mile, Franklin County Graphic, posted a pending land use action sign on the property, and issued a SEPA optional determination of non-significance under SEPA Registry 202-303-412. I don't know why. Well, okay, I do know why. It's kind of like an airplane. Okay. The application is a request construction of a new Group A water system. Upon full build-out, the new system will serve multiple properties slated for future residential development along north-south alignment of Fraser Road. There's a map with that right here. So this is the run of the that blue line roughly. These are, some are already approved, preliminarily approved in the process, different like for example, this one has not been subdivided. The property's there, but and it's RC1, but there has been no application for subdivision on this one. That's Underwood. This is the Mullen subdivision that has John Mullen Drive and stuff like that. This one we haven't seen yet, and we don't know whether or not this will become viable due to the fact that it's actually zoned AP20. We don't know anything about this proposed.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did you say it's now AP20?
Yeah, everything on this side of the line is AP20. This project site and this project site that are shown here, these are proposed, like if they go in, they would be served as well. However, there is nothing. This is under a comprehensive plan amendment. And then this one, we haven't heard anything. Basically, AP20, you can't do subdivisions. So,
So Derek,
I'm not sure what their proposal regarding these, but this is what was on the map.
you said that everything right of the blue line is AP20.
Generally speaking.
The one you
yeah.
were just pointing at last,
This
that one, is the portion to the left something else, or is that whole block AP20?
This is RC1. Mr. Mullen went through this process. He did a bunch of different things. Originally, this was one parcel. He broke off the AP20 part, then rezoned.
So that RC1 piece there, that's Mr. Randy Mullen that owns that?
Correct.
Okay, and so this water system we're talking about today would be to the benefit of that property?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And it's, that's the source of the well that's being converted is on those properties as well. keep thinking the up arrow moves it up, but it's backwards. So sorry about that. We did receive comments from the following agencies. We also received one public comment, and that's the one I gave to you this morning, and that was from Mr. Robert Carasino. All of the comments that he made that we have authority over, we're also implementing. It just, they matched up with what our recommendations were. So there's, yeah, we're going to be requiring recommending the requirement of site screening, things like that, to try to get that facility to blend and not really just be this eyesore sitting out there, which can completely be done. Due to the agricultural activities and stuff, this structure and facility is going to look like some of the other ag facilities. I mean, not big tanks, pumps, stuff like that. Those are scattered all over the place. But we'll also work with them to try to minimize any visual aesthetic things that we can implement there, things like lighting and screening. So PC recommended findings of fact is that the proposed construction of the Group A public water system in the AP 20 zoning is in accordance with the goals, policies, and county development regulations. It will not adversely affect public infrastructure. It will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. Location and height of the structure and site design will not discourage the development of permitted uses on property in the general vicinity. Operation and connection of the proposal will not be more objectionable to nearby properties, generally speaking. The only thing that this site after construction is going to produce is maybe a low-level hums, depending on the equipment running, and then there are no flashing lights or anything like that. And it will not endanger the public health or safety or general welfare. Another element about this is to one of the comments or statements in Mr. Carasino's comments, and which was discussed, is that the approval of this in no way, shape, or form guarantees or is meant to imply the approval of, say, higher density levels or anything like that. It's just going to be a water option that developers in that area can choose, but it does not say guarantee because they got a water system going in. Each of that would always be assessed at the time of subdivision. So there's no like, oh, if we approve this, then I get X. You get whatever the zone allows. So in addition to the standards conditional use permit language that we have, I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'm going to call out any of the specifically details to this. For example, that all the structures are going to need to be engineered except for the backup generator. They'll have to comply with all local, state, and federal regulations pertaining to this use. Exterior lighting shall be directed on site. Shall be landscaped, including required site screening as provided in Chapter 1774, Landscaping and Screening. All storm drainage shall be retained on site. They'll have to do best management for minimizing dust during the construction. Inadvertent discovery protocol for archaeological items. They'll need to coordinate with Public Works to obtain a franchise agreement. Then approach permit will be required for accessing the site if there's not one already in place. And any utility extension crossing Franklin County roads will be addressed at the time of application. There may be some, at the times, so they'll put in the system, whether or not they'll be putting in those cross cuts or those connections to the west at the time of installation, which is what I would suggest, just leave them dry, but that's really up to the developer. They'll just have to address it at the time and coordinate with Public Works regarding timelines associated with cutting or boring. due to the limited use of people out there, you know, generally for maintenance and things like that, parking on gravel probably is going to be adequate. They will not be allowed to park along Fraser Road. And then they'll have to meet the sign code if they put up a sign. That's pretty minimal. Any expansion or increase in the proposed number of connections will have to go through additional stuff or another conditional use permit. And that's as well as they would have to have approval before we would accept that proposed amendment from the like Department of Ecology or the Office of Drinking Water. Yeah, so, and then they're only allowed to do what they're granted to do. They can't, if they go and they build a bunch of new structures or something like that that's not on this site, they need to come and talk to us. Certain minimal ones, say like a storage building or something like that that's a minimal size, we'll probably just go ahead and let them do. But if it's something that's actually increasing the number of connections or the capacity of the system, that'll have to come back. And then they'll have to comply with the requirements set forth by the Washington Department of Ecology, Washington Department of Health and Office of Drinking Water, and Franklin County Conservancy Board. So, happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I'm going to abstain because of conflict of interest.
Okay.
Derek, make sure I stay inside the record here, please. If I start to ask questions that go outside, just tell me to stop.
Okay.
Understand that we're really talking about above-ground infrastructure. I think I heard you say everything in the ground is not purview of this, and that caught me a little off guard. I'm aware of Department of Ecology's oversight of water rights and the molecule rule between rivers and wells and such, but I was not aware that any subterranean underground piping would be their purview. Could you help me understand that?
Yeah, that might be a, I apologize if that's what you got from that statement. No, what I meant was whether or not a party can install a multi or a water system. The county doesn't really speak to that in our regulations. And in consult, well, they can put in the water system. What we can control is what connects to it, I guess is a way of putting it. So, yep, they're putting in this water system. But just because they put in so they put in the water system, just like a party has I've got a well, and now I'm going to connect 2 or 3 other people, which then becomes a Class B. Again, not our call. They just do it. This is the next level up. Now this is the equivalent, this is the same type of water system that say, as far as a Class A standard, that a municipality would put in. However, it's a private-owned system. We have a few of those throughout the county. When we went to look, we were informed that, yeah, we can control certain aspects, like I said, what connects, but whether or not a party wants to invest the money to put in a water, and they have a water right, and they want to put in a water system, using that water right, that's all at the state level.
Yeah. So, but again, the question, the piping from the well site southward to multiple parcels is part of the purview of the county, correct? Piping, not water, not approval to use it.
As to whether or not you're going to put in, I guess I would. I have never seen us do it, but, get into that type but yes,
Normally
I
it
guess
wouldn't,
we could.
Yeah, normally it wouldn't be a question for me, except that this sits right on the edge of Fraser Road, which is a designated road. It hasn't been built out, but in time it's going to be. And when that happens, there will be a need for utilities that run along that road where this piping is going to be. So can I can I be comfortable that your office has also looked at this from the standpoint of build-out and right-of-ways and that piping?
Yes.
Confident that it meets all those requirements, as well as a requirement for any approach off of Fraser Road into the site? All those things have been covered?
Yes,
Okay.
that's those conditions regarding an approach permit will be required, as well as the franchise agreement. That's where that stuff gets covered. Plus, there's regulations, you know, each pipe shall be placed at a certain separation based on the different types of pipes. Those are state standards, or maybe federal, I'm not sure exactly who, but there's a health and safety separation requirements. All of that would be handled not only by us, but at the state level, they would be looking and making sure those boxes are checked off. Then as far as the utilization of our road waterways and everything like that, that's covered under the franchise agreement.
Okay, and again, don't let me get outside the record, but this site and its included piping, okay, all the infrastructure above ground or below ground is outside of the service area for municipal water currently?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and I pretty much knew that, but I think
My
it's
understanding is right now, water service stops at basically Burns Road. There might be some, you know, there's some stuff that flags
Right.
up into like Spencer's and stuff like that. But and then there are plans over here, but this area is not in the UGA. And it's the shoreline development area is what its primary intent is to serve. So.
okay. I think that's all the questions I've got. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'd entertain them, or if there's no further questions, I will close the closed record hearing and entertain a motion.
So I'd like to preference my comment by saying that I appreciate the work, Derek. These are pretty complex. There's a lot of potential gotchas, but I appreciate you separating out the infrastructure from the issues of ecology and their authorities. Just like migrant worker facilities, we have virtually no say other than building heights and setbacks. And even sanitation issues go to the health district. So these can be tricky, so good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that said, I move for approval of Resolution 2023-289 as presented, and I'd like to also thank my fellow commissioner for his abstaining on this matter.
I second. There's been a motion and a second for Resolution 2023-289. With no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Takes us down to public comment.
Thank you, Commissioners. LaWanda Hatch, Franklin County Precinct 100. I wish I had gravity right now. It's very impressive. I love using pie charts when I do budgets. So this is what I'm saying is not really so much to the commissioners, but it is to the public, just to help them understand. I did this morning, so it's kind of funny actually. But I have my little pie chart here to show what the health insurance wedge is. And then within that wedge, our commissioners have to stay in that budget. They have a huge budget, but there's a lot of things that they have to do. And so there's been a lot of words, and for me, the word equity is a term that actually Obama came up with in trying to sell the Obamacare. And I don't know that he created the word, but it is a word that is supposed to sound fair, supposed to sound equal. But the truth is, as my experience in the health insurance, and I'm an expert actually, because I had a family, and our insurances under Obamacare doubled, and we got less coverage. But the good thing is, my husband was covered in case he got pregnant. So that is what equity is. You pay more, and you get less. So what is the word fairness? Fairness is a word that I like to see. To me, really, fairness is you get what you earn. The harder you work, the more you are paid. the better insurance, the higher up you can go. That to me is what fair is. But right now, fair is really considered in this place, the single plan. And that is actually industry standard, that every employee is covered by a single plan. And so what our present plan is that if you want a family plan, you pay for the difference to get that family plan, and that is your option. But one thing that Commissioner Didier, I believe, is concerned about is the compassion. How is that compassionate to families and their rising costs? You know, shouldn't we pay for all premiums? And that word for that is compassion, and that's a good thing. That I can tell you as a citizen of Franklin County, I want the people that work for the county to be treated with compassion. But it isn't about equity, and it's not about fairness. It's about compassion that we do that. And then you have to look about competitiveness in the employee market. And that's another issue that our commissioners are facing. I was under the impression, and maybe I'm wrong, that Benton County has health savings account or VIBO, or maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. That is why they've added the health savings account. And honestly, if I could have it my way, I would have, sorry, I'll just quickly fold up. The last word is human nature, and that is that those that are not getting the benefits that they're getting now may end up leaving. And if we're paying for family plans, it might actually cost the county more. But so if we're going to make something fair, I believe to just divide out the insurance plan and whatever is left over in our budget, divide into the VIBO accounts or health savings accounts. So that's my thoughts anyway.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anybody on the phone? I don't see anybody coming forward, so we'll move down to Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Chair. It's obviously been a busy week with budget hearings, so I've been really encapsulated in that. Yesterday evening, we had the HAPO Advisory Board, so that's the third time I've been a part of that quarterly meeting. Leo Perales is chairing that board. HWL was there, and they're going through their 60-day evaluation period, so they should deliver that, October, November, sometime in December. So with that, they'll give us recommendations on, capital expenditures, some of the things they're seeing with the ICE arena, and ultimately what to do, long-term strategies with the arena itself. So it was a good conversation, and was nice to see new councilwoman Melissa Blasdell there. So she is really excited to be engaged. She's been in the hotel industry for many years, a few decades now. So she already made plans to meet with the new HAPO manager, Joel Morgan. So really excited to have her on board and get her expertise, because I know she wants to dig in and really help out with that process. So, heard some really good positive feedback that the HAPO Advisory Board is getting better. Since I've been on board, we've met a whole lot more, and I feel like the group members feel more engaged in the process. So I'm excited about the future. Other than that, just really keeping busy with, it's a busy time of year with benefits, with budget, and just managing everything. So it's been fun.
Commissioner Peck.
By my wife's accounting, I think I took my 4th vacation last week in my 15 years as a commissioner. I'm sure it's 1 or 2 more than that, but hasn't been enough on some occasions. Therefore, I didn't have any meetings of consequence last week. This week, I do have the Washington State County Road Administration Board meeting in Spokane, which, as you may recall, is the entity that funnels federal highway dollars through the state system down to the counties, regulates and oversees our public works functions, and also looks after and distributes gasoline taxes in the state. So it's an important function that has direct bearing and benefit to Franklin County. So I'll be there Thursday, Friday of this week. Thanks.
Commissioner Mullen.
So had the disability board meeting was canceled and postponed until next month. Also had the Franklin County Emergency Management Quarterly Meeting. We went over their budget and their benefits. Had the Board of Health meeting last week, and then just budget meetings this week, so that's it.
My last week was the Hanford Communities and signed up to go through the tour out there on November 7th, Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Coalition. We had the Health Board meeting, Franklin County Emergency Management meeting, and then the budget meeting started on Monday, but I found myself in the commissioner chambers by myself, and I'm thankful that we were able to get a hold of Commissioner Mullins so that we could save the taxpayers a lot of money here by assembling everybody here for these budget meetings and not having a quorum. So I really appreciate the fact that he answered his phone and he was able to be on the phone so we could conduct those budget meetings on Monday. And proper notification, we were notified July 5th. We were notified into September by Tim. Teresa sent out an email October 20th. Mike sent out an email October 22nd, and Mike's newsletter had it all in there. And then my son last week had his hearing before the Board of Equalization, but they would not listen to his appeal because he was my son. He is his own person, and he bought his property last October for $677,000. And his property was assessed at $1.2 million. To me, that's a travesty. Brand new married man, can't represent himself because he's my son. And it was orchestrated by our office downstairs to not hear his, and that is very upsetting to me. And then the phone calls I received from the meeting here the last couple weeks about our VEBA contributions and our cash in lieu of VEBA. And we got people living out there in the blocks that are farming that don't even have insurance. And yet we have people here in the courthouse that have insurance by other means that is much better than our Franklin County insurance, and they're taking it in salary. And I was told by somebody I won't reveal that one of the previous commissioners said that he and the other two commissioners at the time saw everybody in the courthouse getting raises, and therefore they wanted a raise too.
Mr. Chairman, point of
That
order.
is very upsetting to me. So at this point in time,
Chairman,
I'm very
point of order.
upset about the VEBA discussion, the fact that every group that I've been part of in my life.
Point of order.
Commissioner Peck, I'm speaking. We'll go to your point of order in a second.
No,
And
discussion stops.
You know as chair, I can't recognize your point of order. I will not recognize your point of order because I am the chair.
Discussion stops when a point of order is called
Point of
by a
order,
member.
Commissioner Peck. What's your point?
The VEBA issue has been tabled by a majority of this board. It's inappropriate and out of order to discuss it in your updates. It's tabled.
The chair does not recognize the point of order by Commissioner Peck, and therefore I'm going to discuss it because this is on my Commissioner Administrator updates. And these are phone calls I received from people that don't have insurance and are very upset at the fact that we have people that are gaming our insurance program for money to increase their salaries. And for me, this is something that is very upsetting because as a team member of organizations that I've been prior to, we always thought of ourselves as a family, and a family takes care of their own. And here in the courthouse, that family is non-existent. It seems like there are some egotistical, self-centered people that think that they are more important than other people, and I've heard comments, the fact that they don't care about the families in this courthouse, that they want their money. That is very disturbing to me, and I'm very upset about it. That is the end of my presentation. We'll go down to elected department head business. Is there any elected or department heads that would like to come forward? Seeing nobody coming forward, administration office business?
Chair, yes, I have been texting with Judge Orozco, who's on vacation. She was nice enough. She wanted to clarify something that I want to get out to the public. So I'm just going to read verbatim my notes here. This is in regards to Resolution 2023-292, the Therapeutic Court Coordinator. So Judge Orozco said she wanted to let us know that the grant is actually continual. So, and she also wanted to clarify that she negotiated the salary with grant money. She asked for that grade 18. Judge Orozco left the step open to allow negotiations. So she is spending what she believes is the amount for a quality employee. And she plans to come to our next meeting to give you a more clarification on how that process to the 18-4 happened. So I just wanted to leave it at that. And she'll come in next Wednesday to clarify a little bit more with the commission.
Ms. Gonzalez, that
Thank you.
answers my question completely. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Is there any executive sessions or anything today?
Yes, there is, Chair. This is RCW 36.61.300, acquisition of real property or property rights.
So at this time, would you take
And,
us into
I'll-
executive session and for how
Yes,
long?
sir, for 10 minutes, please.
Okay. Did you already read out the
Yes, I
RCW?
did.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Greg. We've come out of executive session, and we have another executive session. Mr. Gonzalez, will you take us into it, please?
Yes, sir. This is an executive session under RCW 42.30.140 subsection 4B, governing body strategy related to collective bargaining, and we'll take 5 minutes.
Now we want 5, and we won't be long enough.
Right?
Are we ready?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
We've come out of executive session with no decisions made, and we're back to regular session. Is there any other business for the good of the county?
No, sir, we are through.
Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Let's see if they're ready to